Hey guys, it's Cory Fischman and Chad Fischman, and we're back with Brothers Contracting and wanted to go over a few things. We are in a new year and we've got a lot of new things going on, and honestly, something that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis is the processes and systems that we use to get the things done that we do. And we find that those parts of the business are some of the most critical aspects of what we deal with on a day-to-day and how we have to evolve and move forward and progress our business. And so that's what we wanted to get into.
Yeah, it's interesting having processes as part of your weekly, daily regimen. You know, it's like when you're making incremental changes over the course of a year, you really see the value of that and you really see the transformation. Of course, on a daily basis, it might be a small, minute thing that you find to be important to change or alter. But it, you know, personally, I feel like in life, that's important to always create, you know, different systems or processes, because in different seasons of life and time in life, whether you've had children or you're starting a new gym routine or whatever it may be, you're always having to evolve and keep up with new systems and processes to keep a steady lifestyle. And,
yeah, you know, I definitely, I always want to be progressing in life, in business, in everything that I do, and you know, those are the critical factors to make that progress a reality. It's interesting because you and I talk about processes on literally, like you were saying, on a daily basis, and it's something that we've noticed in terms of other businesses and business owners, many other businesses that we see regularly, that we even utilize, you know, establishments that we patronize on a regular basis, that you and I both are just like, how have they not figured this out yet? It's so simple. This thing is so simple. And if you're seeing a business that they can't even figure out how to, you know, I don't know, when people walk in the front door, they're supposed to sign in and maybe there's not a pen regularly available. It's like, stick the pen on a chain and that way there's always the pen right there. Like, even something as basic
like
and simple as that.
Like everyone steals the pens, the cheap Bic pens.
Right. And just stick it on something so it can't go anywhere. And boom, you don't have to think about it ever again. That's solved. You're never dealing with the minutia of having to have somebody always looking for a pen for new customers. And that, if a company can't figure that tiny thing out on the front end, you got to wonder what's going on the back end and why, like, how is this happening?
The importance to that is really the fact that if you're a business owner or in a managerial role or in some kind of growth role for a company, it's crucial to have those little details worked out for you to grow. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you're just going to be in this continual rat race or hamster wheel, whatever.
Somebody's always got to find the pen.
Every single day, it's one thing that takes 3 minutes. And I kind of relate this to like a wedding. For anybody that's been married out there, it's even for a small wedding. At my wedding, we had 80 people, which relatively small or mid-size, I guess. But if you're spending 3 minutes or 5 minutes with each and every person that has flown to your wedding and family members you haven't seen for a while, in the course of your reception, there goes the whole night. You haven't had any time to dance. Between that, you're cutting the cake, you know, all that kind of stuff, which we didn't do, but it's very quick for your day to be taken away from you and your special night, and then you look back at it and say, what really happened there? And
with a bunch of little things, it's kind of like,
people don't think it's like I'm gonna just talk to them for 2 minutes, and it's the same thing with, like, in general, the daily work grind basis. You're dealing with a lot of reactive activities, and reactive activities are not progressive activities. So
it's like
whether that's
death
calls,
by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Like these little things are going to take you down. Are you really going to allow that to happen?
Yeah. By the end of the day, I look at the clock and I'm like, it's 5 o'clock already. You got to be kidding me. I didn't even cross off 3 of the things on the list of my to-dos. I did 50 things, but they were all the reactive things for the day.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, in a lot of cases, we end up spending most of the time our after hours, like last evening when we were here till 1 o'clock in the morning, working on those progressive systems and those things that hey, here's our quiet moment. Let's try to get ahead, because if we don't do this, then next week we're going to find ourselves back in the same spot again, and we'll never be free of time.
And that right there is a huge aspect in all of this, which is basically just recognition in the first place. And I think that's one of the biggest issues out there for most businesses, most business owners, managers, things like that, is just not taking a moment to realize what the issues are, to think through and understand, okay, we have a problem, even as small as where's the pen. If you can't recognize that is an issue in the first place, then you're never going to be able to solve that issue. And so that's really kind of where we start in terms of kind of going through all of these systems and processes, is really just taking a look at our day-to-day. And this is a daily practice for Chad and I. We literally sit down after hours on a regular daily basis. And
how can something be done better?
What went wrong today, or what did not go smoothly today? What could have been better? And we literally will discuss and evaluate numerous things on a daily basis. I mean, it is regular on every single daily basis that there are many things that happen that frustrate us. And sadly, we can't fix them all at once always. And so that's kind of another key, is you have to hone in on the ones that are really
the most important.
Most important and going to save you the most time or create the most value for you.
And sometimes you throw a million things at the wall and you see what sticks. So you're constantly reevaluating the new system that you may have put into place and whether it really works or not. And if it doesn't, then you pivot again. You rotate to something else. Just lately, actually, we had an issue where we have phone service for the office. And they're the old school, desk phones that are plugged in, and everybody's used to being on your cell phone these days. So you're always texting, and that's what clients want to do these days. They don't even check their emails a lot, because it's just junk mail in a lot of cases. They give us the email, but it's just, put it in with Target ads as well.
Yeah, people respond much quicker to text messages, which is helpful and useful, especially when you've got an evolving business, which, with projects moving day to day, a lot of moving pieces, you need quick responses.
Unfortunately, though, telecommunications companies typically in a commercial state don't do that. They have old school phones, and there's no texting. So if somebody's texting your office line, you're not receiving anything. We've had that in the past. And
that's important to have that office line for a lot of reasons as well, for a business like ours at least. We have an administrative assistant, Michelle, who's amazing, and she picks up the phone every call that comes in, but she needs to be able to transfer that call to one of us if need be, or we need the voicemail system working. And so we need a phone system like this. However, the texting is just not part of it.
Yeah, so I was able to pick up on a business. Actually, first we tried email to text, which is a doable thing, but it's kind of wonky, and it doesn't always send to the right phone numbers, and the text looks weird in a lot of cases. And you also can't attach photos, which is really frustrating unless you know that client or person has Verizon or AT&T. You have to know the service provider, because you have to put a little piece into it. So we attempted that, and it didn't work. And one of the biggest things like that, we have clients that will text us, or we'll send them pictures of a sample of a countertop or a tile or something like that, and asking for verification. Do they like this or this? And what ends up happening is we end up sending it from our personal cell phones.
Yep.
And
or even if we had individual business cell phones, you send it from those. Either way,
I don't know what you're getting. You don't know what I'm getting.
Yep.
Michelle, didn't realize that I got a text confirming that this material was good. So in a team format, we were able to hone in with a company that does web texting, that they can take your landline number, which is fantastic, and port it over so that you have text capabilities. And now this system is fantastic. We've just literally said the last week, like, wow, this is so amazing for us now to have this, because it actually almost breaks it up into like an email inbox that
you can have on your desktop
can see,
or your phone. The entire team can see it.
And
everybody
you can assign a person to that text, or that, you can even comment inside the text and say, hey, Cory, did you end up getting back to, Joe about this?
Without the client seeing it at all, but the team internally can see it. It's a really, really cool program. And for us right now, it's hitting all the points and all the marks that we needed to
quicker, more efficient.
That process.
Yeah, there's less missed things that fall through the cracks. And I think that Cory and I, over the years, have always been trying to figure that out. How can this not be missed again? When you have businesses, there's a ton of moving parts, especially as you bring on more employees. You have one person out in the field that, oh yeah, I spoke to John and he told me that he wanted to add that to the side of the house. Well, how was that getting back to us?
Now, to go a little deeper into this has literally been years of discussions and issues and problems that we've been dealing with. And when I say it's been years, it's not been years that we've just been talking about this topic and having issues with it and finally we figured out a solution. It's been years of playing around with different solutions and trying to solve the problem.
You're talking about the texting,
just communication in general. Oh, yeah. We have tried, I don't know, we've probably tried about 15 different client tracking softwares and client management softwares. And
everything's good for one thing, and then you're like, what am I going to have, 25 different CRM programs on here?
Correct. And currently we actually still are using 2 for our separate businesses for the grill cleaning business, right, for Palm Beach Grill Cleaner, and one for Fischman Outdoor. And so even still, that's not terribly streamlined, but at least that works for our needs right now. But then it was still, all the communication couldn't go through, the text messages couldn't go through that client tracking software. Right. Emails can, but then you're trapped into utilizing their email platform. And if you ever get off of that CRM, which we've changed CRMs numerous times throughout the years, now you've lost all of your email data with those clients in that program. And so there's all of these details that literally we've just continuously tried, iteration after iteration after iteration of new systems, new processes, new programs, new things to try and make this work and make all of these items, these communication issues come together.
Well, when you're a small company, you're nimble, you're able to pivot and change and try things out for periods of time just to see, does this work and will it mesh with everything else? Because that's really the key, is having all of your practices and your systems come together into one universal thing. Obviously, when you're a billion-dollar company, you hire on a company, a contractor, a CRM, whether it's through Slack or something like that, and you bring them on and you say, you're going to build a custom program for us. Right. And it is going to be branded for us. It is going to incorporate all of these details that we want specifically.
And it'll morph as our company morphs in terms of what we do.
But you can't do that when you're a small company. Even the expenditures on a lot of these streamlining processes or systems can be expensive. Mm-hmm. And especially when you're in startup mode. But it is imperative at that point in time to start implementing those, in my opinion, because that's the only way you're ever going to find time to do anything more.
Yeah, as you start growing and getting bigger and busier, then that's when you don't have the time anymore to really, unless you're willing to be here till 1 a.m. like we were last night, which is honestly just exhausting.
I think I mentioned
obviously.
In the last podcast is like the Jiffy Lube concept. It's, you can be a local mechanic that does oil changes yourself on a daily basis, but if you get good and you get really busy, now all of a sudden you have 30 cars you have to service in a day. You don't find time to get into growth methods or systems or anything like that. Whereas Jiffy Lube, they came out with the system, okay, pull your car right up. We don't even have to lift the thing up. We're going to go underground right under you. You sit in your car. We'll have you get out. You're going to come to the computer. We're going to tell you all the things that you don't really need, but we're going to sell them to you anyway. And you need new wiper blades. We're going to upsell you. And they show you the screen, and it's got all the red, on it saying, oh, these are good. This is in the green. But, these 27 filters that you didn't even know existed in your car need to be replaced. And it works. I mean, for a lot of people, that's like, oh, well, I guess so. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. And it's quick and it's efficient and you're out the door. But they've created a process that worked, and they were able to streamline it and open up all over the nation. And I think that if you do it from the ground level, and you're constantly evolving those systems, you'll be able to grow. Otherwise, you may be busy and you may be very good at what you do, but you'll never be able to duplicate it or do it on a larger scale.
Yeah, and I'd like to think or say that systems and processes are what separate good businesses from great businesses, but the real reality to it is that systems and processes are what separate not good businesses from good businesses. If you're not focusing on these things and you're not evolving on a regular basis, then you're not keeping up, and it's not going to last. And because how can it? Things are just constantly changing in day-to-day life for people, in day-to-day industry, and if you aren't making this a priority, then you're going to get left behind. And even if you have a pretty good thing going on and you've got kind of a corner on the market that you're in, I've got news for you. Somebody else is going to come in and see, wow, he's got a pretty good thing going on, but I could probably do it a little bit better. And if I do it a little bit better, then I'm just going to take all of his business from him. And that is the truth. That happens. And, as we've been progressing on in business, we've seen a lot of people come in and try and take market share from us in a lot of different ways. We've taken market share from others as well. As far as the grill cleaning, when I started the grill cleaning company 13 years ago now, we were the only grill cleaning company in Palm Beach County, and now there's quite a few around. And one of them we've recently noticed has gotten tons and tons of reviews, solid 5-star reviews online. They're killing it. They're doing a great job, and all the credit to them. They're really kind of. We don't put as much focus onto it anymore as we have a lot of other things going on right now, and that's okay with us in terms of how we've scheduled our business and structured things. But you look around and there's somebody coming up and really taking a huge part of the market because they've been focusing on that market and they've been putting their attention into making what they do better.
Yeah, a lot of top tend to rest on their laurels and they stop growing or wanting to grow. It was like even, the scenario with, was it Canon or who went out of business?
Kodak?
Kodak, sorry. And they just, nobody's ever going to take our business. They were the kings of it. There's no such thing. Yeah,
Blockbuster.
This digital blockbuster, this digital trend is not going to really last. And it does. And these are companies that, currently Amazon is absolutely the king and the top of e-commerce right now, but will it be forever? Probably not. Eventually there's going to be something and someone else that comes up with something different. Now they have a lot of funds to put into research and development, but there's always something. And you have to be,
Speaking of Blockbuster, let's look at Netflix. Netflix came in, there was the red box with the DVDs in the stores and that you could get easily and quickly, but then Netflix came in and started going all streaming and dominated for a little while.
Yeah, they're struggling.
But now they're struggling a bit. There's so many other companies coming out with their own streaming services. I probably have 8 of them I'm signed into on my phone right now.
And when you have the entire world already on your platform and you're charging a specific amount and that's it, where else do you go from there?
Where do you go?
Where's the growth strategy? And then obviously with publicly traded companies, they're always investors have to see growth at all times.
Yep.
So if you don't, then you just completely deteriorate within minutes, much like GameStop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, we can get into stocks all day. The other thing too with these transitions and making sure you're always keeping processes in place and so on and so forth is hiring the right talent too, because that is part of the process. And those individuals can bring in more processes that they have experience with. And abilities to expand that horizon.
Right off the bat, even just with your own processes, you're a business owner. You've got your systems and processes in place, but things are going well. You have the systems, and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, and the business is growing. And you can't manage every system and process all the time. You just can't at a certain scale, at a certain point. And so, bringing people in, firstly, if you do already have systems in place, it's much easier to bring people in and say, hey, I need you to do this, and this is exactly how it's done. Follow this word for word. And literally, creating spreadsheets or or outlines for this is how you're supposed to do what I need you to do exactly like this. If you do it like this, we're good. And literally you simplify it both for them and yourself. Now you know that they're going to be doing exactly what I was doing because I made sure that they know exactly how it's done. And if they're not, then they're not doing their job. Maybe it's time to reevaluate that employee. But that's a huge help in terms of bringing people in. And then once you have them, as you said, you can bring people in sometimes who, this would be a real bonus, honestly, to bring in some new staff that has their own systems and processes and things that they can offer and add to your business. And if they do, I mean, more power to you. That's amazing. But if they don't even, regardless, one of the things that we've tried to do here is try to empower our team members to be able to, firstly, we make sure they understand that creating these processes is very important to us and very important to the growth of the future of the business. And we try to help them understand how to create these systems and processes for the things that they do on a day-to-day basis. Because when we bring people in, it's usually because we're expanding and we need things done that maybe we did before, or some things that we never did, but we just need help doing now. And so for something like that, okay, hey, you're here, you're doing this. We never did that, but I'd love it if you could create a spreadsheet of what you do,
you
because
want critical thinkers. You want people that can, and that's one of the biggest things when you're hiring is somebody that can be a critical thinker, somebody that's actually going to think it through and not just come to you for every single thing and ask you which foot to put in front of the other. Because that does nothing for you.
Right.
If you wanted a machine, then you would have brought that in. But if you're looking for people, they really need to, especially when you're a small company, because you have to wear so many hats, and you need them to effectively take on the ownership feel and role that they feel empowered to think something through and then come up with a solution that may be better to make it an easier system to do.
And then on top of that, you let your people know, okay, write down these solutions. Write down these solutions. Honestly, I've had discussions numerous times with employees of ours, team members.
It's all up here.
Yeah, I mean, for us, typically, it used to, so when we've brought people in, we did everything. We had our systems in our heads, but then once we brought people in, it was like, oh my God, we really need to write this down so that I don't have to tell them every single time and remind them. And, and just because I have a system that I can relate to them doesn't mean they understand why that system was in place in the first place, which it's really helpful to give them the why at the very least so that you don't continue on doing things based off of assumptions that they're not understanding. But at the very least, you can have it written down and they can follow it step by step from the start. But also, if they're bringing new things to the table, you want them writing what they do down because, maybe we expand down the line and they need help themselves and somebody under them needs to come in and do work under them. Okay, well, if you have your responsibilities laid out and drawn out and your systems drawn out ahead of time, you can do the same. You can hand it off and bring people in and onboard quickly and easily.
It's important to assign a somewhat of an open-ended task to people on your team because that gives them the ability to say, okay, I need to handle this, but, instead of them coming to you and say, well, how do you want me to do it? Or what exactly do you want me to do? Well, think it through a little bit and see what you can come up with and then present it to me and then we'll walk through it. And is a much better way to run with people if you want that growth in the future, because otherwise, once again, you're just a paper pusher and that doesn't really get you, much other than basic production.
We actually had somebody working for us once where we had to come up with a system for them specifically, which went something like this. Basically, they constantly came and asked us questions about everything, these simplest things, the same questions over and over. And we said, okay, here's the deal. You are not allowed to come and ask us a question until you've already done research to try and answer that question yourself. And when you come to us to ask the question, if you've failed in figuring out what the answer was, I need you to
just
let us know what you've tried to do. Let us know where you looked, what you were looking for, and prove to us that you actually put in some effort first before just coming and relying. Because otherwise, we're just doing your job for you.
Sometimes I feel like when you're the one that is in charge or whatever it may be, some days I feel like I'm just Google for people. It's like the easy access. Well, I mean, I can figure it out, but 2 seconds I'll call Chad and find it out.
Right.
That's where that also, from a personal basis, having the business grow, you have to prioritize and time block, and make sure you're staying on task through the day, because once again, it'll eat you up in no time. And then everybody leaves. They have all their answers figured out because they called you and got them all figured out. And then you're just sitting there at the end of the day. And you're like, oh, I didn't do a darn thing for myself today.
I guess we'll be here till 1 o'clock tonight and doing all the work we should have been doing during the workday.
It still happens. And it's still going to happen, especially when you're a small business and you're not Jeff Bezos, who just walks into an executive room and says, show me your decisions. Okay, I'll approve or say yay or nay. It's a little different, when you're young and a smaller company, because you really do have to be able to be an open door owner and be okay for people asking questions. Because if you go the extreme opposite way and say, well, don't ask me any questions and the answer is always no,
then they might figure out the answers and they're the wrong answers.
And so you definitely have to run this balance of making sure that everybody's on the same page. It's a cohesive environment, but everybody wants to grow together. And so sometimes there's just questions that need to be asked no matter what. And,
For sure.
And you have to be able to answer them.
But once again, the more of those questions you can eliminate by having, set distinct ways of coming up with the answers.
Which is just have nothing but computers and robots doing everything. No, I'm kidding. But that's
how Jeff
what people
Bezos
are
is trying to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality. A lot of people are going that way. So, and you do want to automate stuff, but you have more interruptions on a daily basis than ever before. And so people have to be able to stay in the zone and get things done, is a big key to it, because between our phones dinging and our emails dinging and 50 tabs open on your Google browser, it's overwhelming and it's hard to stay on task at all times.
Mm-hmm. And so, back on to really kind of the general topic of systems and processes and all of that, it's really the most critical thing really is once again, starting off by evaluating where you've got issues and kind of thinking through that and trying to solve those problems and prioritizing along the way, making sure that your big problems are the ones that you're solving, the ones that cost you money, or the ones that if solved could make you a lot of money. And trying to kind of do that triage on a daily basis of, what's the most critical problem to solve right now. I mean, the biggest issue is just being motivated in the first place to solve any issues, but then from there picking out the right issues to work on and working on them, whether it's staffing issues or the systems that your employees utilize, or just core systems for your business. For instance, like a core process that we have is our sales process. For us,
it's easy to stick to something, and it makes it's repeatable.
Yeah.
And if you have that system in place, it makes it simple for you to follow the steps, and when things are due. It's like there's a reason why when you're in grade school and they tell you that you have a report due on Tuesday, you have a report due on Tuesday, you get it done.
Yep.
You figure it out and you get it done.
Yeah, one of the biggest issues we've always heard from our clients is like, everyone else I've called about this hasn't gotten us any pricing. Hasn't gotten back to me. Some of them haven't even called me back, let alone gotten me pricing. Whereas we always call people back within a day at the most if we don't get in touch with them right away. And we always get a quote out to them within a week a week and a half or so of meeting them for the first time in the showroom, and we stick to that. And if you give yourself that, like you're saying, if you give yourself that time, like if you tell people every Wednesday we send out quotes, and so we'll come out the week before on Thursday, get measurements of your patio, and then the next Wednesday you get the quote, then you have to stick to it, and you figure out ways to stick to it.
I think that's the problem that a lot of people struggle with as a business owner, is that they don't set those boundaries for themselves, or they don't set deadlines for themselves. When you're growing up, once again, whether it's sports, you have a baseball game tonight at 7:30 p.m., got to be there at 7:30 if I want to play in the game, right? And there's a coach that's going to get mad at you. The rest of the team's going to be upset with you if you don't show up or you show up late. And you have to have an accountability on yourself, but it's also good to have accountability partners and people that you can cross-reference off of. For Cory and I, it's been really easy because we're working in this together. So we put pressure on each other to get things done and make sure that there's some kind of urgency to everything. Mm-hmm. When you're an individual business owner and you're out there by yourself, I'll get it to them. I'll get around to it. And then you go into your day, and once again, you're super reactive. You got an issue on a job you got to run out to, whatever it is. It's hard to find that accountability in yourself in a lot of cases. And so there are people that look for that in businesses and other businesses. And so if you are in that position, it's good to kind of look around for other similar locally owned businesses so that you can have that camaraderie or somebody that you can say, hey, let's just kind of bounce things off of each other on maybe a totally different business, a restaurant and a construction business, and say, there's a lot of similarities. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. When you own something that has to put out money to employees and all these similar things and payrolls and accounts payable and receivables, there's a lot of similarities no matter what the business is. So, it's good to have that.
Anytime I find myself speaking to other business owners, we inevitably get into you instantly connect for sure. And we get into, there's a few specific topics that business owners tend to discuss with each other at length. And once again, the processes of how you're getting things done employees is definitely another big one for sure. Customers can be one at times that leads to some amusing discussions. But yeah, it's these are the things that if you like Chad's saying, if you don't have that person to work back and forth with in your own business, then always helpful to go and seek out others who are going through the same type of stuff and kind of feed off of each other's, energy in terms of, and obviously look for somebody who has that growth energy, that energy and momentum to move forward and keep growing and learning. But that helps a ton. And as far as, the timelines, that is another critical part of the processes and the systems development is not only having, it's great if you've got a system in place that says you're going to do this and you're going to do this and you're going to do this and you're going to do this. Okay, we know what we're doing, but when are we doing it by? And like Chad was saying, a lot of business owners, they get very lackadaisical about, I'll get to it. And as much as, I understand that, because the days can get to you sometimes. There's just so many things that come at you on a daily basis. At the same time, you're dependent on, as a business owner, on customers and consumers coming to you for what you're selling, and have to be understanding what consumers are looking for and what consumers get frustrated with. And timelines evolve based on that, and timelines on things like getting pricing back from somebody. That's huge for consumers,
especially in construction. In our field, that is like the biggest issue, other than communication after the fact. But
right.
It's huge. Too, like that. The other big takeaway from processes and systems that I would see is that it doesn't happen overnight. And I know we spoke about this earlier about. It's these little iterations and changes over time. And I think, we've spoken before about either you see these guys who it seems like they make it rich overnight, or, you're just putting in all this time and energy. It doesn't. And I think LeBron James just hit some record for most amount of all-time basketball points or something like that. And they were talking about the statistics of it. And of course, they showed how many missed shots he's had, and it's the same thing. You think, oh, well, LeBron James is perfection. He's not, misses a ton of shots. You're going to have the same thing in business. You are going to do the wrong thing at times. You're going to make the wrong decision. You have to be able to pivot and keep moving forward and try again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even things like like, I know a lot of people talk about Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and like, oh my God, he just blew up overnight, but not true at all.
I mean, rather fast, but no.
Rather fast considering the scale
growth,
to what he got to, but at the same time, it took years for him to make any profit at all on it. And
he's just sitting in his dorm.
He was sitting in his dorm, and first it was just at Harvard, and then it was only at Ivy League schools, then it was just at colleges, and then it was to the public, and then it was to the world, and then he monetized it and started making some money. And that was years after he started the thing in the first place. And it really just does take that time no matter what. That, I've said the story numerous times to friends and family about, when I started the grill cleaning business, I had grand ideas of franchising that concept and growth. And I would have told anybody, give me 5 years, I'm going to be incredibly wealthy and successful. And
in 5 years, I'll break even.
Yeah, 5 years after I was not wealthy or successful, I was still alive, and that was good. But my goodness, I was scraping by at that point.
Well,
still,
the early years they work against you. It's like no banks want to lend to you because you have no history. Oh, well, I have no history. How am I supposed to get a loan to buy the vehicle or take out a credit card to bring on inventory for a product? If you're buying shirts, how am I supposed to buy the shirts if you're not going to trust me to buy the shirt? So it's like this. It's
aside from that factor, though, the cards being stacked against you. Aside from that, I've also said numerous times that looking back at this point in time, I understand now what I never understood then, which is why it takes the time. I understand now
all those things
all of
easy.
the little lessons that I needed to learn along the way. And there have been so many. I mean, it's absolutely countless how many little tiny lessons, one after another, and then some big lessons sprinkled in there as well that I've had to learn along the way. And until you've gone through that experience, until you've gone through, and I still have a long way to go. I still have a long way, a lot of lessons to be learned, and a lot of ideally and hopefully a lot of success ahead, and there will be that, and because that's the direction we're going, and that's what we're determined to do. But it's until you actually gone through all of that and learned those lessons, you really can't quite understand the importance of going through it. And so,
yeah, the biggest takeaway from this really is like that. The processes are crucial. Being nimble while you're a young, smaller business is crucial. Don't think that you just have to stick to this path because that's what you've been told or you heard. Do things, do the research. We have the the world at our fingertips these days, and I think that people don't even think to utilize it. YouTube is incredibly, informational. Google. I mean,
I'm blown away by how many people I speak to
I would live without
still
Google.
On a day-to-day, daily basis. I still, people all the time are like, I wonder how blah, blah, blah. And, and just not even in business, just in my daily life. And I'm like,
wonder how you tie this shoe.
Google it.
With it, and it doesn't have to turn and twist and turn.
It's like, Google it, YouTube it.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean, I wonder how? Everything is out there.
Yeah.
It's all out there. And, if you know to look in the right places or the right people to ask, it's all available. Everything that's being done has been done before. Yep. And all you have to do is just open your eyes, open your mind, and go and look.
Yep.
It's really, it comes down to a lot of very simple things. And, Chad,
the want to learn is a big part
the desire to grow and
be
learn.
Okay with absorbing more information. Some people get to a point where like, I don't need to know that. I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. But okay, then keep doing it the way you've been doing it.
Yeah,
and that's where you're going to stay.
And you were saying earlier about the little incremental changes and on a day-to-day basis. And the reality is, we've discussed that many times. If you make one single change a day. And once again, that change could be as simple as put the pen on a chain. One simple change and improvement on every single day, every year, you'll have 365 improvements that you've made to your business or to your personal life or to whatever it is that you're focusing on. 365 positive changes each year is massive. Massive. I see so many businesses that are so stagnant that have never made a change ever.
Yeah.
They figured out how to do something 20 years ago, and they've been doing it exactly the same since. And, for, a 100-year-old pizza joint that makes the best pizza pie in the world, maybe that works fine for them, and that's good. But, for most businesses, you're going to want to grow. If you want to grow.
Or stay in business.
Yeah.
That's a key. And here I am Googling this because I just wanted to make sure I said it right. But we'll go off on this note. But it is Albert Einstein's quote, right? Insanity equals doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I think that really hits the nail on the head with that. You really have to try.
Yep. So, keep your eyes open, keep your mind open, and keep looking forward to the future. Keep working towards whatever goals and desires you have in your mind and in your heart, and just keep moving forward. That's the big goal and the key to all the success in the world at whatever you're wanting to be successful at.
Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yep. Thank you very much. Have a good one.